The Old Testament writer of Job said it best. Now ask the beasts, and they will teach you, and the birds of the air, and they will tell you, and the fish of the sea shall declare unto you. Who among these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done this, in whose hand is the life of every living thing? The scripture echoes across every desert, hillside, and open plain. For within the precepts of order and design, provision and plan, so inherent throughout the animal kingdom, the fingerprints of God are indelibly etched. Let us look then and learn from the creatures with which we share this planet. And as each plays out its unique role in the continuing celebration of life on earth, the reality of the Creator's existence and care takes on a new and even richer sense of wonder. More than 1 million different species of living organisms are known to inhabit the earth, and of these, nearly 70% are animals. Their scope, in both numbers and diversity, is truly remarkable. A small corner of this Central American rainforest, for example, is home to at least 2,000 different species of mammals, insects, reptiles, and birds. While the coral beds of Australia's Great Barrier Reef provide sanctuary for millions of exotic creatures, representing more than 1,700 unique types of marine life. Even a drop of salt water contains an impressive zoo, as a microscope reveals a menagerie of fascinating but rarely observed animals, all thriving in a liquid world half the size of a dime. Yet within this diverse and elaborate mosaic of life, there is a unifying theme. For regardless of species or geography, each has been designed by God with the abilities and physical attributes necessary to survive the challenges and demands of its everyday existence. If the virtues of persistence and determination could attain a living form, the resulting creation would almost certainly be a Pacific salmon. Coursing waterways from northern California to the coast of Alaska, these magnificent fish number 5 in species: Chinook and sockeye, coho, humpback, and chum. At maturity, they range in weight from 2 to 100 pounds. And in the cycle of their lives, one of nature's most compelling dramas unfolds. In the shallows of an inland stream, countless thousands of eggs usher in a new generation of Pacific salmon. After hatching, the tiny fish stay close to the protection of their rock and gravel nests. Their first nourishment is drawn from the bulging yolk sacs attached to their stomachs. Then later, after several weeks, they will search for food in the stream. Within a year, the fish will grow to a length of 4 to 6 inches. Created with the capacity to thrive in both fresh and salt water, the young salmon now await the moment to depart from the place of their birth. On a spring evening, under the protective cover of darkness, thousands of fish head downstream. They will travel with the rushing flow for days, and sometimes weeks. And though casualties are high, the majority will reach their destination, the Pacific Ocean. While making the necessary adaptations from a fresh to saltwater existence, the most mysterious period of the salmon's life begins. In a matter of days, the fish will disappear into the waves of the Pacific for 1 to 4 years, depending upon the species. Swimming north in massive schools along the coast of Alaska, the fish then move out into the open waters of the sea, traveling in counterclockwise arcs that can span halfway to Japan and back again. During their oceanic travels, millions are taken by the commercial fishing industry and a host of natural predators. But those that survive reach maturity in size and strength while preparing for the last phase of their odyssey, the return home. The salmon's migration from the sea back to their birthplace is the epitome of instinct and relentless desire. Scarcely resembling the young fish that swam down these waters months or years before, the adults are so totally consumed with their quest that they will eat nothing as they battle upstream. No obstacle can discourage them. Equipped with powerful tails and torpedo-like bodies, salmon have been known to ascend falls more than 10 feet high. It is an all-or-nothing effort, and the hazards can be devastating. Yet the survivors push on, sometimes more than 1,000 miles, bypassing hundreds of streams, creeks, and tributaries they encounter along the way. Finally, in the gravel beds of the exact waters where they had entered the world, the salmon stopped to lay and fertilize their eggs. A new generation ensured, their life mission fulfilled. They soon die. The entire cycle is nothing short of phenomenal. And for decades, science has undertaken to comprehend how the fish, after leaving the sea, can so unerringly navigate their paths home. Many of the answers now appear to be related directly to the salmon's unparalleled sense of smell. At the University of Washington, a mature Chinook salmon is anesthetized, and electrodes attached to the portions of its brain that control the olfactory organs. Samples of water from its home stream and several surrounding tributaries will be used in the testing. We now know that in nature, every stream has its own fingerprint, a unique chemical composition that sets it apart from all others. In some cases, the differences between the waters can be significant, but often the chemical variances from one stream to the next are virtually imperceptible, except to the salmon. First, water taken from a stream less than a mile from the fish's birthplace is dripped into its nose, triggering only a moderate response. Water from another nearby source creates a similar reaction. Now watch as the salmon's home water is introduced. Tests like this have shown that the fish can accurately perceive chemical solutions as dilute as 1 part per billion. That's sensitive enough to detect a tablespoon of salt mixed into 18 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Perhaps the most graphic display of the salmon's incredible homing instinct and sense of smell came to light at the Prairie Creek Fish Hatchery in the Northern California community of Oric. It was here that an unexpected discovery revealed a migration journey almost beyond belief. On the morning of December 2nd, 1964, a 2-year-old male coho salmon was found swimming among hundreds of juvenile fish in one of the hatchery's 5 concrete rearing ponds. Closer examination revealed that the back fin of this unexpected visitor had been clipped with the distinctive identification mark of the Prairie Creek facility, a mark carried only by fish raised in this pond and released to the sea the year before. The dislodged wire screen used to cover the pond's drain box provided an obvious but improbable explanation to the puzzling scene. Perhaps the fish, in an attempt to reach its home water, had entered through the maze of pipes in the hatchery's drainage system. Apart from a hoax, it was the only logical conclusion to be drawn. Yet a look at the route the fish would have taken defied all logic. Like all salmon released from the Prairie Creek hatchery, the fish would have returned from its time at sea here at the confluence of the Pacific Ocean and Redwood Creek. Traveling upstream with the other survivors from its brood year, the migration route would lead 3 miles to the junction of Redwood and Prairie Creeks. Faced with a choice, the fish would pick up the scent of its home water and continue north. A mile and a half later, at this point, where the waters of Prairie and Lost Man Creek merge, a similar but more difficult decision must be made. Pausing here, the salmon picked up 2 familiar signals. previous year, it had been released behind the hatchery in Lost Man Creek. Yet instead of retracing its path back to where its journey began, it chose to resume its northbound course. The reason for this unusual action could be found near the highway, 100 yards to the east. Well water, draining directly from the hatchery pond where the fish had been raised, trickled out through a culvert under U.S. Highway 101. Normally, this water would be absorbed by the porous ground before reaching Prairie Creek. But heavy rains that winter had created a small channel that carried the signal home all the way to the determined scent. Following the familiar scent, the fish would leave the creek to enter the shallow rivulet, only about 9 inches deep. Then swim through dense vegetation to the opening of the culvert. Home was near, yet the difficulties to be encountered had only begun. After crossing under the highway, the fish would enter this storm sewer. Its final glimpse of daylight would illuminate a jump into this 12-inch pipe. Then, in the darkness, the salmon would swim under the hatchery parking lot directly toward its final destination, only to meet a hopeless dead end. Under these walkway boards, less than 10 feet from the rearing pond, the fish would find itself trapped in a concrete flume. Yet spurred on by the overpowering scent of well water that poured in around it, the exhausted traveler refused to give up. Searching for an escape, it would locate the opening of a 4-inch drain pipe. Then, squeezing its body inside, would ram its way through, until again being stopped, this time by a 90-degree upward bend in the pipe. Drawing upon its final reserves of power and will, the fish would make the turn to be faced once more with an overwhelming obstacle. The remaining 3.5 feet of standpipe was covered with a framed screen weighing 8 pounds, nearly 5 times more than the fish itself. As the battered fish swam among the juvenile salmon on that memorable December morning, doubts and questions about its journey filled the air like heavy mist. Finally, the decision was made to lift the boards covering the drainage flume. And moments later, speculation gave way to awe and wonder. 72 coho salmon, all bearing the fin clip of the Prairie Creek hatchery, were trapped within the flume. Each had battled alongside its indomitable companion to make all but the final leap back to the pond where life began. To eat. It has been defined as the process by which food is collected, then taken in through the mouth, to ingest, chew, and ultimately swallow. Among animals, few endeavors are more commonplace in occurrence, nor often more ingenious in their execution. For as with every aspect of life on earth, God meets the challenges of need and environment with a host of resources ideally designed. Consider the skimmer. This resident of marshlands and tidal shores is crafted with the lower half of its bill larger than the top. This unique provision allows the bird to easily scoop up small fish, while at the same time taking the concept of eating on the run to its absolute limits. For the inhabitants of this remote desert cave, finding a meal is an exercise in high technology. As evening falls, a colony of bats takes to the skies. Amidst a million pairs of beating wings, creation's only flying mammals can locate and consume more than 200 tons of insects under a canopy of little or no daylight. We now know that these skilled hunters of the night are guided by a sophisticated form of sonar navigation. High-pitched cries emitted in flight echo back and are detected with such speed and accuracy that the bat can instantly gauge the size, distance, texture, and relative velocity of any object targeted. The system works so well that some species can differentiate between the ripples made by a falling leaf and a fish on the surface of a pond. Sometimes God's handiwork is displayed through both an animal's physical design and its instinctive behavior. The sea otter can hold its breath for several minutes while plunging to depths of 200 feet in search of crabs, urchins, and abalone. After locating a shellfish, the resourceful mammal uses a rock like a hammer, pounding continuously until the abalone's substantial grip is broken. Back on the surface, the otter's tool chest is opened again as the rock becomes an anvil, and seafood on the half shell is the catch of the day. But hidden among these impressive demonstrations of food-getting prowess are moments when less active, more subtle virtues prove absolutely vital. No matter how strong the temptation, how accessible the prey, this toad exhibits uncommon restraint in the face of what would appear to be the eating opportunity of a lifetime. Its reluctance to indulge is no accident, for as a means of protection, the lubber grasshoppers are endowed with a notoriously bitter taste. And perhaps recalling an unfortunate meal in its past, the toad draws upon two more of the Creator's provisions: a good memory and the instinctive sense to turn away. Oh, that I had wings like a dove, then I would fly and be at rest. David's words from the Psalms convey a universal desire that has burned within the human heart throughout recorded history. To soar like a bird, loose from the bonds of earth, unrestricted and free. Yet from the legendary Icarus, whose wings of wax were melted by the sun, to some very real and often painful attempts, the joys of self-empowered flight have remained as dreams. Even some of man's best efforts, including this pedal-powered flight across the English Channel, and the soaring rides of a hang glider, are totally dependent upon technology. For by itself, the human body was simply not designed to fly. In the domain of hawk, gull, and sparrow, however, physiology and aerial prowess are synonymous. A bird is simply a masterpiece of engineering, the perfect flying machine, supremely crafted by God and endowed with the attributes for a life in the skies. Its breast muscles, which operate its wings, for example, are enormous, in some birds comprising 33% of their total body weight. At the same time, a bird's skeletal system is incredibly light. The bones of this pelican, with a wingspan of nearly 6 feet, weigh only about 5 ounces. Yet they are strong and flexible enough to withstand the constant stress of maneuverable flight. Add to this package highly efficient digestive and respiratory systems, a large and powerful heart, and feathers that streamline, insulate, and provide the necessary lift for wings and tail. And it is easy to understand how Solomon could describe a bird in the air as a sight too wonderful for me. The methods and techniques of flight generally fall into a few basic categories. Flapping, or power flight, involves a strong downward stroke that results in rapid lift and forward thrust. Generally, the larger the bird, the slower it flaps its wings. In contrast, the hummingbird will beat its wings up to 80 times a second while performing what has been called the most versatile display of aerial skill in all of God's creation. The tiny bird can hover or fly in all directions, forward, backward, or to the side, depending upon its needs. Its rigid wings move in a unique figure-8 motion, powered by exceptionally strong muscles and a flexible swivel joint at its shoulder. The tail works as a rudder, controlling the direction of movement. Not surprisingly, the hummingbird expends tremendous amounts of energy, and to survive, must consume twice its body weight in food every day. Gliding and soaring are far less demanding forms of flight, yet once again, the elements of aeronautical design are clearly seen. This fulmar is slope soaring, riding on air deflected upward from the cliffs as its wings work in harmony with the surrounding wind currents. While a heron spreads its enormous wings in a slow approach to its nest. Large primary feathers at the end of each wing offer precise control of both speed and direction. A similar design enables this condor to ride for hours on spirals of warm air. Again, a huge wing surface allows for effortless gliding as the bird of prey searches the valley floor for food. But for all the soaring wonder and power that so abundantly fills the skies, perhaps the supreme testimony to the Creator's gifts of flight and life itself is written on the tissue-thin wings of an extraordinary insect. On an August morning in northern Michigan, a monarch butterfly enters the world. At first glance, the newly emerged insect seems an unlikely candidate for a migration that will carry it across a continent. Yet as blood and other fluids are pumped through its veins, its wings quickly inflate and harden. Later, they will be driven by the powerful muscles designed into the insect's upper body, the thorax. The monarch is one of the most familiar North American butterflies. Prolific during the spring and summer throughout Canada and the United States, they are probably best known for their unusual relationship with the milkweed. For despite the fact the plant's leaves are poisonous, they are the only place that female monarchs will lay their eggs. After hatching, a monarch caterpillar grows rapidly while devouring the milkweed's leaves and flowers. In the process, large amounts of the plant's toxic chemicals are absorbed. Fortunately, the caterpillar is protected by an immunity that will be passed on with the poison to the butterfly. Then weeks later, when the monarch flashes its striking orange and black wings, the entire bird community receives and usually heeds its unmistakable message: I taste terrible. Leave me alone. With the arrival of autumn, the monarch's alliance with the milkweed draws to an end as the plants go to seed for the winter. The time has also come for the butterfly to undergo a significant physical transformation of its own. Sexual behavior and egg production cease, as a series of hormonal changes equip it for a lifespan that will last almost 8 months, about 6 times longer than that of a monarch born earlier in the year. This longevity is absolutely vital, for the monarchs have only one way of surviving the freezing winter temperatures of the north: a migration to a warmer climate. Of all the migrations undertaken in nature, the monarch's trek to its overwintering grounds is one of the most astounding. It is a journey with 2 primary destinations. The monarch population living west of the Rocky Mountains moves toward the coast of California, while those from east of the Rockies head toward Mexico. Departing from as far north as Canada, these expert gliders can travel more than 50 miles a day. Advancing steadily, they ride on rising columns of warm air that can elevate them thousands of feet. The majority of the eastern population reaches the Gulf Coast of the United States by late October or early November. Some will spend the winter here along the shore, but for most, the journey south is far from over. The monarch's flight paths to Mexico have long been the focus of study. It is certain that many of the butterflies swing southwest over the mainland after leaving the United States. But much speculation has existed as to the possibility of a more direct and difficult route across the waters of the Gulf. In October of 1991, a team of volunteers recruited by research biologist Dr. Gary N. Ross and positioned on gas and oil rigs across the northern Gulf scanned the horizon for evidence of the migration. On this Unocal platform, 75 miles south of the Louisiana coast, Dr. Ross first glimpsed and documented the evidence he was seeking. At dusk, for more than 3 weeks, on evenings following the passage of a cold weather front, monarchs descended upon the platform. Perhaps attracted by the lights, the butterflies interrupted the longest non-stop leg of their journey. Here among the pipes, ropes, and heavy machinery, they rested for the night. During this same period, similar monarch sightings were reported on more than 20 other platforms in the surrounding waters. With the coming of dawn, the butterflies would stretch their wings and depart with the same suddenness that had marked their arrival, to traverse the remaining 400 miles of ocean that separated them from Mexico. Throughout history, the final leg of the monarch's journey south ended far from the view of most of the world. In fact, until 1975, few people, beyond the farmers and loggers who worked the hillsides of these volcanic mountain ranges, ever saw the butterflies after their departure from the United States. Then, on a January morning, in this remote forest, 75 miles west of Mexico City, a discovery was made that would open the door to one of the greatest natural phenomenon in all of creation. Millions of monarch butterflies, most of the eastern population, were gathered among the trees, 9,000 feet above sea level. Dr. Frederick Urquhart, who had devoted much of his life to searching for this spot, described it as a glorious, incredible place where butterflies swirled through the air like autumn leaves. The dramatic discovery soon led to a torrent of new questions about the insects. How many were there? Why did they choose this location? Were there other colonies? The years to come would yield many answers. Since 1975, 30 different overwintering colonies have been identified within a 30 by 70 mile area. It seems that this secluded forest meets all of the critical climate demands necessary to sustain the estimated 100 million monarchs that come here each year. Like all butterflies, monarchs have no internal heating system. Instead, they are designed to collect solar heat with their wings in order to sufficiently warm their muscles for flight. On sunny mornings, the insects leave the trees, traveling short distances from the colony in search of nectar and water. They will remain active throughout the day until the cooling temperatures of late afternoon trigger a return to the branches of the oyamel firs. By congregating in large groups, the butterflies find protection from their two major adversaries, freezing temperatures and the mice and other small predators that roam the forest floor. If one should fall from a tree, it shivers instinctively while looking for a sunny spot to warm its muscles enough for the short flight back to the safety of the elevated clusters. Here the butterflies will hang tenaciously through the night, and if necessary, succeeding days of inclement weather, until conditions are again right to fill the skies with their flashing wings. They have journeyed, sometimes thousands of miles, to a patch of forest they have never seen before, guided by forces beyond human understanding to ensure the survival of their species. Yet the miracle of the monarch does not end in this remote corner of central Mexico. For in a few weeks, with the arrival of spring and a new crop of milkweed, the butterflies will leave the colonies to mate and lay their eggs. These monarchs will soon die, never to return to the overwintering sites. But in the months to come, their offspring and succeeding generations will move steadily north, following the milkweed while living out the brief cycle of their lives. Then in the cool days of early fall, yet another generation, 4 or 5 removed from this one, will again set out, as God has planned, embarking on a wondrous migration to the same trees that have offered sanctuary to their ancestors for centuries. Now ask the beasts, and they will teach you, and the birds of the air, and they will tell you, and the fish of the sea will declare unto you. After more than 2,500 years of observation and analysis, the words from Job still ring true. For the insights we have gleaned from the creatures that surround us continually touch our lives. Time and again, science and technology have looked to the animal kingdom for inspiration and design. And more often than not, imitation of nature has yielded spectacular results. But the lessons to be learned from mammal and insect, bird and fish, only begin with the concepts that lead to invention. In 1691, the British naturalist John Ray structured his classic discourse on the marvels of animal physiology and behavior around these thoughts.
The vast multitude of creatures, both small and immensely great, are effects and proofs of God's almighty power. Let us then consider the works of God and observe the operations of his hands. Let us admire his infinite wisdom and goodness in the formation of them, reflecting upon their great architect the praise and glory due him. No other creature in this world besides man is capable of so doing.
For John Ray, a lifetime of study had led to an understanding of a basic and paramount truth behind all of creation. God reveals himself to man through the things he has made. Each day, in the wonders of land, sky, and sea, he presents us with a vivid picture of his existence and character. It is a continuing revelation, as exciting and diverse as the creatures he has brought into being. For in a salmon's relentless quest, and a butterfly's flight across a continent, in a bat's ability to navigate through the darkness, and the majestic grace of a bird in flight, an eternal truth shines clear to anyone who will but look and search with an open heart. The God of all creation is real and alive. His power and wisdom are without limit. And he cares and provides abundantly for the life that he has made. So ask the beasts, the birds, the fish of the sea, and they will teach you that the hand of the Lord has done this, in whose hand is the life of every living thing.